Hello, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Late afternoon, I guess. Thank you for having me on this webinar. First of all, I must thank Remox for giving me this opportunity to address the audience. Large number of people that I see are coming on board, and hopefully we'll have like a fun session today. More in terms of a freewheeling chat. Please feel free, as Vishal said, to ask questions that you may have. We are trying to cover as many queries as you may have, whether it is related to any kind of specific troubleshooting or related to your careers, related to questions that you may have regarding what to do during downtime, or even how to further your education, even if you may be already working somewhere. I think it's an exciting subject that we've managed to hone in on. The reason we didn't want to keep it technical in nature or specific to a particular vertical is that the first in the series, we are hoping that this will become a series, is more of trying to get to know what is the general sentiment. So once we get a clarity on the type of topics that people want to address, then I guess we can come up with dedicated sessions regarding those topics. Today it's going to be pretty much an informal session, so I can give you a little bit of a backdrop in terms of that I've been involved with the animation industry for well over 30 years now. Along with the animation industry, I've also been fortunate to be associated with the manufacturing sector. I've been associated with the NGO non-profit sector, which again has been in the education vertical. I've now also, as Vishal said in the introduction, been associated with several training institutes. I feel that there's a lot of stuff that professionals can contribute from their experiences in the various streams that they have spent their lives in. And what better way than to get involved with institutes and educational schools and colleges and to give back to the students in the new generation any sort of knowledge that can be of help to them. At the outset, I'd like to start off by saying that this is an industry and a craft that is a lot of fun. And the best part is that you have people paying you to have fun. So long as you are sincere, you are disciplined, and you are focused, without losing sight of the fact that you are having a good time and you should be having a good time doing whatever area of work that you are doing, I don't think that there is any other parallel that you can find in any other industry where you can have so much of fun and make a livelihood out of it and make a serious career out of it. One of the things that I think Vishal mentioned to me during our discussions is that, where exactly is the industry headed? And we'd like to talk about, what all is happening in the industry so that those of you who are planning to get in, who have enrolled in courses or are about to complete their courses, what lies in the future for them. So as I was saying that in terms of the current state, this is an amazing time for animation per se, because as I see what is happening on the broadcast front, what is happening on the streaming front, what's happening on publication front, what's happening on gaming, there's a whole lot of stuff that's going on. A lot of development work is going on. A lot of creative stuff is happening. People very often come up to me, students ask me, should we take up 2D animation because 2D animation seems to be dead. I don't know where this impression comes in from. I think 2D animation is alive and kicking. In fact, if you look at the majority of shows that you can find on air, the maximum percentage is towards 2D animated shows. One of the things that we do joke about in the industry is that if you want to find a 2D animator, it's very difficult. It's very easy to get a 3D animator. It's an interesting development to see that 2D is finding favor again. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening even internationally. In fact, in the stop motion area, in the 3D movies area, you're seeing a lot of films that are being launched purely on the 3D animation platform, and most of them are headed towards hyper-realism or super realistic movies. Along with that, look at the game development area. I don't know how many of you are aware, but recently Unreal 5 was launched, and there was a demo that we could all see, and it's like really mind-blowing work that's happening, in the gaming sector, which I think is also changing a lot of the rules of the game, because we've been always talking about 3D animation and as being slightly different from gaming. Also from the standpoint of asset build, from the standpoint of actual execution, from the standpoint of how exactly we handle, textures and images we create, the backgrounds that we create, all the associated art that goes with it. I mean, this new development has just blown the socks out of everyone. I mean, if you look at the demo, it talks about heavy assets. It talks about assets which have no concern to, optimization and special care and modeling and, rigging and texturing and lighting and so on and so forth. In fact, you've got like billion count scenes and interactive lighting in real time. How would anybody even, in the wildest of dreams, have imagined that something like this would happen? I believe that this is an interesting time. A lot of fun stuff is happening. Open source tools are really kicking in a very big way. Those of you who are familiar with open source will know what I'm talking about. Those of you who are not, open source is basically free software that you get, no license required. You download it, install it, and you're up and running, and it's free for life. So there's a lot of stuff that is happening in the 3D arena as well as in the 2D arena as far as open source software is concerned. A few years ago, I wouldn't be saying this because software was not, or the tools were not yet as well evolved in the open source arena. But all that is changing. So the last couple of years have seen a huge shift in terms of how people are even approaching development, how people are approaching this craft, how people are approaching the art behind it. So I think this is a fantastic time to be involved in this craft and in this.
So out of all of these topics, like you see a lot of people coming on social media and talking about, why to start working with Blender, start working with Maya, start working with Photoshop. Why is that you chose this specific topic? What is that beyond the techniques? What do you really mean by that?
Firstly, I think that everybody is focusing on the technical aspect. I think there's no point in also being a Me Too there, where someone's talking about, tips and tricks in VFX, someone's talking about, Blender, someone's talking about Maya, someone doing a session on Nuke, there are gaming sessions, the technicalities, left, right, and center. I myself am a software agnostic person, which basically means that I do not have any affiliations with any software because I don't think software is important. I, in fact, don't believe that software is important. What is important is your understanding of the craft and what is your understanding of the basics and the fundamentals of the craft. Software is just a tool. So, yes, it will be that what you can do in maybe, Photoshop in one way, probably, Substance Painter will allow you to do that in another way. Krita will allow you to do it in another third way. It's not that you will not be able to do things. The only time when you come to a dead end when you say that I can't do this in this software is probably when either the software itself is not that evolved or you really don't know your basics that well. Because there is always a workaround. There is no one right way to approach a problem and solve it. This is a fact. Similarly, even with 3D, whether you are working with Max or you're working with Maya or you're working with Softimage or you're working with Modo or you want to work with Blender, if your fundamentals are not clear, if your basics on what is it that you're trying to do are not clear, you're not going to be any better off than the next guy. I think this insistence on software should stop. Given a choice, I would like to see a lot more focus coming in on holistic learning, which means that there are things which we are not talking about but are extremely important. Yes, training is important. You need to know the tools. You need to know how to use the tools, which is where courses come into play. And specific courses come in to teach you specific things about various tools. But there are also things like the management side of art. There are things like the business side of art. There are things which are about how do you develop yourself as an artist beyond the software. And I didn't find anybody addressing those topics. It was like a very similar thing that happened when the lockdown started happening in our country and world over, in fact. I saw a lot of articles being written on work from home and a lot of people talking about what work from home means. But frankly, I didn't find even one article which was addressing specific areas or specific points in terms of, okay, work from home. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are things that you should be looking at in order to kind of adjust your working style, in order to adjust the way that you're approaching your work. These could be starting points for you to be looking at so that they can help you transit this difficult period. So that prompted me to write an article myself, and I kind of took what all was missing from what people should have been saying and should have been addressing, and trying to put those down in front of people. Now, I'm not saying that that is the solution. I'm not saying that's the only solution, but at least it gives you some points to start examining yourself, seeing whether you're actually doing these things. If you're not doing these things, can you do these things? If you go to my website, there is a link on my website which is to the article. I posted the article on LinkedIn as well. It's just a collection of thoughts that if you are working from home, this is a changed environment. It's a changed situation. A lot of things are not in your control. A lot of things are in your control. So let's start worrying about what we have in control and just start addressing issues from that standpoint. So instead of saying, oh, well, we have a problem, my approach is always trying to look at it, okay, what is the solution? So let's try to become a part of the solution as opposed to reinforcing what the problem is. Everybody knows what the problem is, right? So this session, again, in the same vein, was more about, we all know that there are software tools. We all know that there is ample material available. Even when it comes to technical aspects, there is a lot of stuff apart from the interactive sessions. There is enough stuff available online which you can look at and you can follow along and do your demos and learn a new craft. To give you an example, 3 years ago, I started working on open source Blender. And people say, oh, well, now we've become old or we've spent too much time in the industry and how will we learn? It's again just a matter of what is your interest, what is your inclination, how important is that learning for you. And it's not really very difficult if you have your fundamentals clear. It's just a matter of applying those fundamentals using a different set of tools. And that is what allowed me to pick up Blender very, very quickly in a matter of I would say 6 weeks. I was doing some fairly interesting stuff on it. Although following tutorials and following teachers online, but still it's a question of just getting in there and giving it a go. We felt that things like what is design management, why is design management important, what are the things that are needed beyond the skills that you are learning in your schools and your courses, are there things that are there which can be learned, which are beyond these kind of skill sets. So that's the reason why we said let's talk about something which is beyond the technique.
Okay, so sir. So we'll start with the next question. So now nowadays we have so many students who are learning so many different tools. Like Maya is there, Max is there, Blender is there. There are so many different softwares which have been released, and all the institutions are teaching technical tools like how to use a move tool or how to use an extrude tool. So what is that one thing what you can say is lacking in students today?
I wouldn't say that there is, anything lacking in students today, because that's like saying that, what all these institutes are doing is of no use. I wouldn't be presumptuous to say that. I think you have to understand one thing. What does a course do for you? I mean, when you go to school, tell me that you studied from, kindergarten all the way to class 12. Have you learned everything that there is to learn? No. It's practically impossible for any school, any course to teach you everything there is to learn about a subject. And trust me, that's not the intent either. There are fixed curricula that schools follow. These curricula are designed based on general, tendencies of what the market is looking for. It's practically a lot of it is dependent on what the professional market wants. So one of the reasons why in our country 3D animation developed the way that it developed was because there was a huge need for specialist, artists at a given point in time when this industry was just about picking up. It's incorrect to, blame courses. It's incorrect to blame institutes that, oh, well, they are not teaching animation. The fact of the matter is that there is a curriculum that is being taught. The curriculum is being taught by hopefully people who know what they're talking about. I think what students need to understand is that learning does not finish in the institute. In fact, what any institute is giving you is a sense of direction. It's giving you a sense of the path that you want to walk on. Here are some basic things that we will equip you with. We'll teach you these in the hope that you will excel in them and the curiosity will be awakened enough for you to learn a lot more beyond what we are teaching you here, because it's practically impossible. Even if you take a 3-year course, it's practically impossible for animation, visual effects, gaming, whatever industry you want to talk about. Forget even animation, any industry you want to talk about. You think a 4-year course in engineering teaches you everything there is to learn about engineering, or a 4-year course in architecture? It doesn't. So there is a lot of things that you have to learn yourself. I'll mention a few things which I find very interesting, that you learn well when you're interested in learning. You have to always remember this. Only when you're interested in learning something are you really going to learn it well. Because if learning is not enjoyable, it's a wasted effort. It's like just going through the motions. All right.
Definitely.
So if you're not enjoying the process of learning, it's like if a teacher is not enjoying the process of teaching, he will never be a good teacher. He will never be able to reach a status of a mentor or a guru. He will always be a adhyapak hai, ye teacher hai, right?
Yes, sir.
How is it that you remember only a few choices teachers from your school days? It's how they impacted you, how they taught you. You always remember how.
Yes,
So
sir.
whether it's a math teacher or it's an English teacher or Hindi teacher or any even Sanskrit teacher for that matter, how they teach the subject comes through from the passion that they bring to it. Now the same thing applies to a learner as well. If you are going to be interested in what you are learning or attempting to learn, if there is a genuine interest, you will learn that a lot better. You will imbibe that a lot better. You will assimilate it a lot better. Secondly, learning is always a process of dialogue. I mean, I fail to understand why people think that learning is a one-way street, that teacher will talk, student will learn, and everybody will be happy. It doesn't work like that. And dialogue means I talk, I feed your imagination, I seed a thought in your mind, and you as the student then push me. As a teacher, you push me to say, okay, I understood what you're saying, but here is what I feel about it, and we have a dialogue. The minute we get into a dialogue, that's when actually the learning starts. That's when the understanding starts. It is said that you have learned well when you actually learn to formulate your own questions. So just by saying that, oh, I know everything there is to know about a particular piece of software, is not learning. You become a technician. Nothing wrong with being a technician. Absolutely. I mean, we need technicians. But are you a thinker? Are you a troubleshooter? Are you a problem solver? Are you a person who's approaching a problem from a standpoint of not which tool is going to help me to do this, but what is the core of the problem? How do I address the core of the problem? And okay, once I understand that here is where this problem lies, then I'll go and figure out which tool, which set of tools, whether I have to catch my hand, here like that, or I have to catch it like that, or I have to catch it like that. I don't know. I mean, I'll figure it out. No course in the world can teach you that. No teacher in the world can teach you that. They can only guide you to it. Why are we talking about these topics beyond, specific tools? This is the reason. I personally want to encourage this kind of thinking coming into, students, where your learning starts after the institute. Look at your mind not as, it's not like a vessel or a glass that has to be filled up with something. Your mind has to be like wood. It has to be ignited. So you have to ignite your own desire to learn. You have to ignite your own passion to learn more than what is being taught. And you have to push the system. Only then will you reach towards excellence.
So there is one more small thought. Like,
yeah.
What can you tell or guide us, like from the students from 3D, 2D design, VFX, and gaming industry to focus more onto? What should they focus more?
I have always believed that your personal development in this field specifically begins with observation. It's going to be your biggest teacher, and you have to open your mind up to observation as a pastime. Now, I have a personal habit, which is that as far as possible, whenever I'm walking to the market or I'm coming back from the market, I walk back to my house using a different route every day, if I can. There is so much to see. There's so much to observe. How many of you know the name of the street on which you live? Do you know, which are the connecting roads in your locality? What are they named? Every road has got a name here, right? In the place where you're living, how observant have you been in terms of what is the kind of architecture of the houses that is there? Even if they are buildings, do they all look the same? Do they look different? How are they looking different? What kind of color combinations are being used in the various buildings? What are the types of trees that I have around in the locality? It's again, like I said, it's a question of what is your interest level. अगर आप सड़क पे चल रहे हैं और आप इतना भी observe नहीं करते हैं कि आपकी आसपास क्या है, what is around you, then you're not observing. You're basically just going through the motion of walking from point A to point B and coming back to point A. I think you should make that into an opportunity to learn something, which is observe things around you, because the next time you are trying to build a city, somewhere down the line, those observations will be sitting in your head. And they will help you to start designing stuff which will not look weird. It will look believable because you have seen it, you observed it, you know that a structure looks in a certain way, and somewhere it's getting imprinted in your memory. Observation, absorption, saturation. These are the three things that you must focus on. You have to saturate your mind from all walks of life. Whether it is looking at things that are from your industry. So if you're in 3D animation or if you're in VFX, natural tendency of a lot of artists is that if they are VFX artists, they like to look at a lot of VFX stuff. 3D animators will try to look at a lot of 3D animation performance. Yes, that is good. I am trying to suggest to you, look beyond that. Just because you're a VFX artist and have an interest in VFX doesn't mean that you should not have an interest in painting. Doesn't mean that you should not develop an interest in music. Interest in dance, interest in theater, interest in, physical activities. Because all these things are growing on you. They are increasing your knowledge base. They're increasing the database that you have of information. Where you are going to use that information, how you are going to apply what you have learned, you don't know. Nobody knows. It's a subconscious thing that happens. Why do you find that a lot of artists will make something that looks very realistic, believable? While some artists will make stuff and you say, well, this looks fake. It doesn't look real. It looks like there is something wrong with it. The difference is observation. The difference is how keenly has one artist observed the finer nuances. And those observations have then come back to play a role in the work that he or she is doing. And this is the key thing that you have to understand. So for an animator, you go watch a dance recital or a dance performance. 99.9% chances, if you have really paid attention to the performance, you really enjoyed the performance, it will make a difference to the way that you set up your animation performance. Because these are subtle things that you will absorb without even realizing them. But give a dance performance to an animator who has never created a dance sequence, has never seen a dance sequence, and you will see the results. You say, well, doesn't look convincing. I think a lot of stuff which is ancillary, music, design, architecture, fashion technology, maybe handicraft. I see a lot of technical stuff. There are fantastic programs like heavy engineering programs. And how it's made is a nice program that comes. How does it work? Woodworking exercises. Not that these are going to help me in animation or they're going to help me in visual effects. But it's just that you saturate your mind, you saturate and absorb a lot of the information that you see in terms of shape, form, color, style, design, patterns, and they get imprinted in your memory.